Greetings, everybody. Leviathan here, and today is an especially exciting day. You can see this large grin on my face because the Necromancer closed beta started yesterday. And so I'm in the afterglow of being able to stream and play some Necromancer gameplay for about 12 hours or something crazy like that yesterday. We went on a huge binge. We leveled up in hardcore, 1 to 70, and then messed around and then died, and that was great. And then we went over to softcore. We tried out some skills there as well, put some builds together, just things. It's a lot easier to experiment on softcore, of course, even though I don't have gear over there. But no one really has gear. And a couple of things to keep in mind. This is, of course, the beta, which is a PTR of sorts. That means that everything is subject to change and will change. Stuff is going to be in flux as the patches come on and they change things on the beta as we give them feedback as well. I'm going to show you today basically all the skills and some of my favorites and talk a little bit about the different runes and things I've observed. There are no Necromancer sets or legendary specific items in the game right now. The phylactery, the offhand that they use, is in, but we can only get a rare version of it, the yellow. We can't upgrade it to a legendary or anything like that. It's a lot of questions that I was receiving on stream. So those things are coming in the future, and when those things do come in, we'll be able to see some really exciting builds probably come about for like blood skills, the blight stuff, melee mancer, range mancer. It's gonna be so great. So let's pop right into the game right now. I want to show you guys. I've got, of course, this lovely golem hanging out with me. But yeah, the things I want to discuss, I'll try to keep this brief, but there are a lot of obviously things to talk about because we have so many skills at our hands now. So we have all of the spenders, or sorry, all of the generators. Bone spikes, which is like a ranged skill, a ranged generator, and it has a couple of different runes here. I'll just hover over them so you can kind of check them out, read them for yourself. I like this one mostly because it's a nice range, allows you when you're playing more of a range build or even more like a pet based build to stay back from the fray and then just let your mobs do what they're going to do. You can kind of see it almost reminds me of like a Grasp of the Dead sort of box, hitbox, if you will. Grim Scythe is the one that you saw for the PAX East demo. That's a very melee ranged generator. It's a really strong generator. I really like dual sights in particular. This one is powerful for getting your essence back quite quickly. So then, of course, we can show you that one. I'll show you unruined versions, pretty much. There you go, nice and quick. And then Siphon Blood, which was the one that debuted in the original Necromancer gameplay at BlizzCon 2016. And this one is a ranged channeling generator, which is kind of interesting. So then as you're trying to kill the mobs out there, you have to stand still and channel this one. So it's a little different. Definitely, I think, if I can recall, the only channeled generator in the game. So that's kind of cool. It's not going to look as cool without a monster to attach it to, but you can kind of see he's just pulling the life force out of whatever monster would be in front of us there. Next up on the list are the secondary skills. So those are all the generators. Then we have some of your spenders here, and these are going to be your main damage dealers for the different types of builds that are out there. Bone is going to be one of the major themes of the Necromancer. So we have the Bone Spear, of course, coming back, and a couple of different runes here. My favorite one is Teeth. I'll actually show you it with the Teeth rune. All the other ones are just kind of shoot out one single target spear that can pierce. Teeth turns it into more of an AoE type of attack. So it, harkens back to some reminders from the D2 days for all you Necromancers of old. It's a really fun skill. It costs essence. It's an essence spender. You can see, throw some teeth out there. Very nice. I'll try not to spend too much of my essence so that I can actually show you guys multiple skills here. Next is Skeleton Mage, and this one I feel like you would pick up in more of a pet-based build. You can see it costs 40 essence, so it's a little pricey. You start out with 200 essence. You can see I have some additional essence. One of your secondary skills on gear can be to increase your max essence, and then there's a passive that also gives you some essence. We'll get to the passives in just a moment. But we have Gift of Death, Contamination, Skeletal Archers. So for everyone who is looking for those Skeletal Archers, I can show you that one. Singularity, this one's very popular right now in like the only build that kind of exists since there is no Necromancer gear. Essentially, people have been doing lawn builds, lawn pet builds, which kind of makes sense because you can use like a Tasker Theo, all that stuff. But that's really like the only builds that currently exist on PTR. But you can get some skeletal archers, which are really cool. Again, I'll try not to spam out too much. Oops, that is not the skill. I resummoned my golem there for a second. But you can see, if I kept spamming, I could get as many out as I wanted to. And they stay around for about 6 seconds, I believe. And then, of course, Death Nova, which was shown off again at PAX East with the Melee-Mancer. A couple of different runes here. I really like Unstable Compound. Tendril seems really strong just with that amount of heal percent that you can get. A lot of these also, the tooltips, one thing to note is that some of them aren't fully fleshed out. Like, there might be maximums to some of these. It might seem really OP that you can get 1% of your health per target hit. But some of them like max at 10 stacks. So it might be only 10 enemies that this is effective against maximum, even if you had 20 enemies around you. That's how a lot of the curses work, which we'll get to in just a second. This is Blight. This is kind of your Poison Nova, which of course everyone really wants for that nostalgia factor from the D2 days. So we can show you that one. Blood Nova is the one that was shown off, the rune in particular that was shown off with the Melee-Mancer. But here's your Blight Nova. There she is. Lovely. So lovely. Alright, and then that's it for your secondary. So those are some of your spenders that you can utilize. And then here we have all the corpse-based skills. Oh, can't assign a corpse-based skill to your left click. Interesting. Let's go right click then. Alright, so Corpse Explosion. Of course, that was from the first demo as well. You explode corpses. This one increases the radius. This one makes them explode closer to you. This one makes them explode away from you. This one freezes enemies that get caught in the explosion. And this one is hilarious. It actually like sends the corpses out to go seek enemies. It looks really creepy. We can actually do something here to show this to you because we have we'll get into the golems in a second, but I can generate some corpses right now. Boom. And then we can use this crazy rune. Is that not creepy? So it basically animates the corpses and sends them to go seek out enemies and explode on them. And that rune in particular makes them cost life. It adds a little life cost for each corpse that you explode. Corpse Lance is another interesting one. So this is a corpse-based skill where you target an enemy, but when there are corpses around that enemy, you consume the corpse, and then it sends out this sort of like lance attack to hit the enemy. This one was kind of underwhelming for me. I feel like it needs maybe a damage boost or something. It's a single target, and it's really kind of slow. I mean, there are some other skills that could potentially help buff this up, but right now I was not really feeling it too much. But I can definitely show it to you. So there are the runes on it. And of course, again, you have to remember that there's probably going to be like a corpse-based set or something that will help kind of buff these things and make them better. So in their original version, they might be a little underwhelming. And also all the numbers are going to potentially just be placeholders. Like they could make them stronger, weaker, depending on where things fall down. So we'll have to see. But let's go with like Blood Lance, for instance. And then we'll make some more corpses. Oh, we don't have an enemy, I guess, to attack, but if we did, I can't show you that one in town, unfortunately. But if we had an enemy to attack, it would basically like consume that corpse, and then it would send out a little lance attack to like Teriel or something over there. Devour is what you might expect from the same Melee-Mancer build that we had. It consumes the corpses, and it initially gives you some essence back, but then if you add some runes to it, you can get your life increased. You can consume your own minions, which is pretty awesome. So like in pet-based builds, you can consume them to help you out. All sorts of different stuff going on here. So that's pretty cool. Cannibalize was the rune that we had at BlizzCon. Or sorry, at PAX East. So you just click that and then boom, look at that. We got a refill. Delicious. Eat those corpses. And then Revive. Revive is crazy. We can actually use Revive with these corpses that we're generating too, because you're like, wait, Revive? You're supposed to revive other monsters. I'll show you in just a second. You can revive your own golem as well. So the revive skill right now in the beta is super OP. It's absolutely insane. Here are some of the runes for it. You can see you can get a little damage reduction. You can have 10 revived enemies at one time, and they last for a decent amount of time. It's like in the upwards maybe of like 15 seconds. There's also some passives that can help you extend the duration of like your revived monsters, and also your skeletal mages, your skeletal archers, things like that. Oblation seems to be the one that a lot of people are going to, just for the damage increase. And again, revive is really strong right now. It's not balanced quite well in PTR. So again, we get this guy to make us some corpses, and then we hit revive. I just revived my golems. Look at this. So now we have a little golem army. That's pretty cool, right? And so you can see they stick around for a little bit, and then eventually they'll go bye-bye. So that's pretty sweet. And then of course when you're out in the wild, like there are some monsters that are so good to revive, like Punishers, Golgors, even like the Grotesques. You can get those. You can get the little like bomber guys from Act 3 and the Keep Deaths that just run up on you and blow up. You can revive them and have them run up on the enemies and blow up. So it's hilarious. You get to do a little bit of revenge from all the things that have previously killed you. Next in this tab we have the reanimation skills. So a lot of these have to do with your summons. You got your command skeletons, which everyone saw back in the BlizzCon demo, and a couple of different runes here. Frenzy seems to be one of the best ones because it increases their attack speed. So it gets you attacking with them a little bit more. And you can see the runes here. They're all sort of either physical, cold, or poison. Those are the 3 elements for the Necromancer. You can see even my convention rotating through the elements down there as the video has gone on. That means you literally have a 33% chance to be on your correct element. So convention is very strong for necromancers because they just have 3 elements that they rotate through. But as you can imagine, passively, once you equip command skeletons, you can see I'm starting to get skeletons rising, and then I can command them to go somewhere and do my bidding. So as they pop up, I can say, hey, Teriel's being mean to me, attack him. And then, well, I guess they actually won't attack him. Because they're nice and they don't attack friendly people. But if there were an enemy like right there, I could just right click and they would all zoom over there and go attack it right away. So it's nice to have a little bit of control over them. Command Golem, you've been seeing a little bit right now with the Decay Golem. So initially, you activate it even if you had it unruned, and it will make you some corpses, which is nice because there are now ways to generate corpses even when you aren't fighting enemies in like AoE, or say you get to a single target situation with your Rift Guardian. You might be like, oh crap, I'm using corpse skills, but I have no corpses. Well, you could sacrifice your Golem if you're using that with your corpse build, and then create some corpses. And there are other skills that have runes that allow you to create corpses as well. So you shouldn't be without corpses. And I imagine there might even be, there's no passive for it, but I imagine there could even be like legendary powers or parts of a set that just make corpses generate for like every skill that you use or something like that. So don't worry, there will be corpses. There will be many corpses. So a lot of the golems are really cool. You have the Decay Golem, here's your Ice Golem, and he actually, I don't know if this is correct in the game right now or not, but when you activate him, he skates over to the enemy, which is really cool because it's an Ice Golem. I love that. The Bone Golem is the one I'll show you in particular because it's a really cool animation when you activate that one. Flesh Consuming Golem, and the Blood Golem, which is the one that we saw in the PAX East demo. So I've been showing you guys the Decay Golem when I'm making those corpses, but here's the Bone one. If I send that, he's hanging out with me, and then I'm like, hey, there are some enemies over there. If there are any enemies in between the point that he starts at and where I send him, he will sweep them up in his Bone Rush over to that area. And so now I've created density in this area. So you can actually kind of use that as a support necromancer perhaps to gather up some density. Again, it's on a cooldown. So, you know, you'd have to get some cooldown reduction, which necromancer does actually have a really strong way to do so. We'll talk about that when we hit the passives in just a moment. But this could be potentially part of maybe the necromancer support kit. Maybe there will be someone else who does the gathering though, and you will literally just be a curse monster, just cursing everything. While that's on cooldown, let's look at some other skills. Army of the Dead is one of your big 120-second cooldowns, big skill. Right now it's kind of underwhelming again, but you know, for being a 2-minute skill, there probably will be some support for something like this, or maybe it will just be something that you kind of fire and then forget about for a little bit, only use it on certain elites or Rift Guardian type things, or I don't know. But right now it kind of is underwhelming. It's not bad, and a lot of the runes for it don't have animations just yet. But this is one of the ones that they did show off at BlizzCon, so you saw, like, you know, all the skeletons rise up out of the ground and rush one area. I'll show you the unruned version because I'm positive that that one actually has a graphic to it, in case you forgot what Army of the Dead looks like. There you go. Kaboom. And so that does like 3,000% weapon damage, which isn't too bad. And it hits all those enemies in that location. We have this one back now, so we can pull another skill up. Land of the Dead. This is another 2-minute cooldown skill. All corpse skills can be used at will for 5 seconds. So I'll actually equip this. I'll show you the runes real quick, and then I'll have to do my command golem trick again to generate some corpses here in town. But I'll show you a cool thing that you're allowed to do with Land of the Dead. So Land of the Dead is going to be something that's really intriguing for any corpse-based build, because it essentially allows you to spam your corpse attacks without using up your corpses. What this basically is saying to you is that all the corpses that you do stuff to will stick around for 5 seconds. So instead of being consumed right away, you can actually just spam like your corpse explosion or all your other corpse-based things. You can even like continue to regenerate off of the same corpses if you're using Devour, for instance. So let's just take Frozen Land. Doesn't really matter. And then here, we'll take Command Golem again and generate some corpses. And then here, we'll take Corpse Explosion and just blow it up, right? So first, I create some corpses. Then, I cast Land of the Dead right on top of it. And now I can go ham on my Corpse Explosion. And see, none of them are being used up until Land of the Dead went away. So you could just go insane, spam out your Corpse Explosion as much as possible. A nice little combo there. Alright, let's move on. Now we're in the curses. I love the curses. The curses are really strong, as you might imagine. Decrepify is one that we saw in the BlizzCon build, 2016. It's a curse that slows enemies and also reduces the damage that they do. And then here are a few of the runes for it. Get some stun. You can increase the movement speed reduction. You can increase your own movement speed. This one's capped, by the way, at 10. So we tried again to see how much we could push these to the limit. But it doesn't say, but it is capped at 10. So you only can get up to a 30% movement speed increase. This gives you more damage reduction. And then this reduces cooldowns. So this sort of works. I thought this was going to be insane. Like every monster I curse would just reduce my cooldowns. But it actually works more like a Gogok gem. So basically, if you have 10 enemies cursed, then you'll have a 10% cooldown reduction. And then if you were to use a skill that was a cooldown, that 10% would factor in to your cooldown, so then it would come back faster. It's not, if the skill is already on cooldown, then this technically wouldn't affect it. It wouldn't make it come back faster. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know if you want to see the curses. It's just, you know, you can spam them out, but they just have cool graphic like that. That is Decrepify. Next up is Leech, which was part of the PAX East demo. This is the one that you can place on enemies and get some life back when they're attacked, which is really cool. Again, all these are for the party as well too. They all apply to your party members, to your minions, things like that. So they're going to be really strong. If there ever is going to be a support Necromancer, they will most certainly be utilizing all of these curses, I would imagine. There'll be a curse bot, a curse mancer. So you got Leech, and then here are some of the runes for it. You could spread it faster, you can get some life regen, and again it's capped at 10 affected, so this would be like a 7,510 life per second if you had all the enemies, all 10 enemies cursed. This one you can reduce your potion cooldown, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if we'll see more to do with something like that, being able to spam your potion. Some life per kill. And then Cursed Ground. So this actually just makes the rune on the ground, and then any enemies that pass into it will start to give you some healing. I actually haven't even tried this rune yet, so let's see what it looks like. That's pretty cool. You can set a couple of locations there. Looks like they override each other though, so now it's just set here. So that one's pretty cool. That's Leech. And then the last curse, Frailty. This one right now, I feel like it might get changed because it's insane. It actually just kills enemies once they're at 15% or less life. And to me, that seems really strong. It almost kind of reminds me of like crushing blow mechanics, but it essentially makes it so that every enemy just has 85% health. Because once they get to 15, they just cease to exist. This works on Rift Guardians as well. So I don't know. Think about the implications of that. I mean, it basically means that frailty is a must include if you have a necromancer, because it makes every fight shorter, especially when you start to get to like really high HP mobs and stuff. Someone in stream did have a great counter to this though, saying that, you know, look at the stricken gem at high levels, and by the time you would get to a mob's like 15% health mark, you're already doing like a ton of damage because of all the stacks of stricken that you would have on it. But I mean, at the same time, you also just might not need stricken anymore. Then you could afford a third gem in those high level greater rifts because you have frailty. So you take a different gem, trade it for this skill. I don't know. Right now it seems really strong. So we'll just show you all the different runes. It's pretty insane. This one's really cool because it turns it into an aura. So instead of placing it, you actually are sort of the frailty curse, and then you walk around. So you can kind of, especially in pet builds, you could become the aura and then walk around enemies as they're being attacked by your pets and stuff like that, and essentially curse everything, which is pretty cool. So we'll show that one off real quick. So here's the aura one. You can see I have this nice purple that's showing and phasing every now and again. So right now, if these were enemies, they would be cursed with it. And you can see the duration on the bar, and some missing tags there as well too, because again, PTR, beta, everything is still being worked on. A lot of placeholders, a lot of icons and things that don't quite match up just yet. Like even here, it's the Reign of Vengeance, you know, icon for Land of the Dead. A lot of it's just placeholders, so don't pay too much attention to those or feel like that's going to be in your final product, because it won't be. Next up is the Blood and Bone section, and so obviously we had Bone Spear in the other section, but here's some more bone-based things. Bone Armor seemed really strong. I like this one a lot. So it basically allows you, it has a really big radius to it, which I can show you in just a moment. So when you activate it, you can hit up to 10 enemies with this and gain some damage reduction. And also it deals some damage itself, and then there are runes on it where you can increase damage dealt to enemies. So this one seems pretty insane. We're trying to figure out if it was additive or multiplicative. It has to be additive, I'd imagine. But whenever they use buy, it tends to be multiplicative, so I don't know. But that seems really strong. And then there are also some other runes here too. This immunity one is, people are like, oh my god, that's so strong. But what you need to know about it is that when you activate this, it actually changes the cooldown from 10 seconds to 45 seconds. So you won't have like 50% immunity time, because that would be insane. I think they understand that. But at the same time, what you could do is still take this, and then one of the passes that we keep talking about that helps you reset your cooldowns could bring this skill back down rather quickly, and you'd still have some decent immunity. So we'll see if this one even gets looked at or changed just based on how much you could actually have uptime on that. But it does go to 45 seconds when you activate it, and we will show that off in just a second. And then some of the last runes here. So the Bone Armor, you would basically, like, you know, get into the middle of some mobs, you get like right here and like hit all these people, and then boom, activate it. And so you can see that nice radius there. And if we hit all these guys, we'd have about 6 or maybe 7 stacks if we reach that guy of Bone Armor. So that's pretty cool. All right, next up on the list, Bone Spirit. So this is your one of your strongest single target skills. It's a charge based skill. So you don't actually use essence on this one, but you do have charges that you can hold. So you can see I have 3 charges of it right now. This particular rune seems interesting because you just pick your target and the Bone Spirit travels until it gets to a target, and then it explodes on that target. So this one, it will pass through everything on its way to that target, and it can actually get stronger and stronger as it passes through. So that one seems like it might be potentially strong. And we were using this as kind of our Greater Rift Guardian killer in some builds. When it's on physical, if you have a physical rune, it does insane damage because it's at 4,000%, and then have that buffed by your elemental damage increase on the COE. It's absolutely crazy. So this one increases the charges. It seems to be like one of the best ones potentially. This one turns it into more of like an AoE. And then some other stuff that you can do with it as well. So Bone Spirit's pretty cool. I'll actually just take the 4 charge one and I'll show you. It travels out really slowly, But wherever you pick to target, whoops, that is not the skill I meant to use. There you go. Wherever you choose to target, it just goes out there, send them out. It looks pretty cool. And also, I don't know if you noticed it, but you can get charges back as you consume corpses. So you can your recharge time is reduced by 1 second for each corpse that you consume. So that means this would pair very nicely in a corpse build. Maybe your corpse explosion would be your AoE, and then your bone spirit would be your single target. And then as you consume corpses, you could throw these out for some massive damage. Blood Rush. Blood Rush is one of my favorite skills. This is your movement-based skill. Actually, while I was leveling, came up with a little build that is going to be obvious to everyone, but I essentially had Blood Rush and Blood Nova, or just any Nova skill, and Ingeom in the cube, so that my cooldown, as you can see, this is already a very low cooldown skill, 5 seconds. If you have an Ingeom up, then you have unlimited Blood Rush, so you can just go as much as you want. Couple of different runes here, but you could literally just teleport across entire maps, and then just show up, Blood Nova, keep going, you know, find an elite, kill it real quick, and then just keep Blood Novaing. So it almost resembled like dashing strike play, if you're familiar with the monks and how they kind of zoom around the map and just target elites when they're speed farming. But this is really strong. Again, very short cooldown, and it can go up to 50 yards. You can also short it too, so like let's say you only want to move a little bit, you can move that little if you want to, or you can go the full duration if you go all the way across the screen. This is going to be really powerful, very, very, very strong. You can even like go basically the same place, so that will give you some invulnerability if you don't want to move too far. You say you're fighting, you know, this is the Great Rift Guardian, he's about to do some big attack too, you just phase out, miss that attack, keep attacking, you don't move too much. I can see a lot of application for Blood Rush. It kind of feels like one of those skills that you will not take off of your bar. So I'm not sure if... I mean, I don't know. I don't see it getting changed, though. It's just really good. I feel like it should be really good. It's like better than Teleport, better than Dashing Strike. So I'm a big fan of this one. Simulacrum is crazy. In order for me to show you this one, I need to set up my skills a little bit. So let me... We have the Decay Golem. Let me grab Devour real quick, just so I can get some essence back. And I will show you just how awesome Simulacrum is. So basically, Simulacrum is another one of those big time cooldowns, 2 minutes on it. It also costs 50% health, which you can see is a pretty steep price to pay, but you gain a lot for what you get from it. You create a version of yourself, and it does your spirit spenders, it does your essence spenders for 15 seconds. So you have 2 of yourselves doing all your essence spenders at full damage. And there are a couple of different runes. This one's crazy. While active, all the curses that you apply all 3 of your curses. So you could be running with Frailty, and then you pop Simulacrum with Cursed Form. You apply Frailty to a mob, and then they also get hit with Decrepify and Leech. So this one seems like it'll be really good, maybe in support, but I would think even just on its own in DPS, because then you can put, you know, a slow and a damage reduction on them, a life leech on them, and a damage increase or a damage, you know, killer once they get down to that 15% life. So it's gonna be insane. And there are some other runes on here which are really good too, like Reservoir gives you a lot more essence when you activate Simulacrum, so then you can really spam out your spenders there. Self-sacrifice is kind of like the Akrat's Champion Prophet thing going on, so you can actually, you know, if you were gonna die, kill your Simulacrum instead and live yourself and be fully healed. So this is actually better than the cheat death passive. We're gonna get to the passives, but I'm actually a little bummed out about the cheat death passive for Necromancer, so we'll talk about it when we get there. And then some of the other things there, this skill is just, it seems also like another one that's like almost a must include if you're doing any sort of spender based build. So I really like it. So let's show you an example of just how crazy this will be. So let's get some corpses, right? And let's devour them. And now we're back up to pretty decent essence. We cast our Simulacrum. Now there are 2 of us. And then we spam our Blood Nova. Or Poison Nova, I guess. Blight. And you can see, I'm doing mine, he's doing his. It's absolutely insane. So look, you get so much more coverage of AoE.
Not enough essence.
And then he's gone. That's awesome. So that's gonna be like insane. I don't know, for speed farming, for regular DPS, like that's gonna be super strong. And obviously it's a really long cooldown, But again, like I mentioned, there are ways to shorten that up. And that's it for your skills there. So some really interesting ones, of course. Some ones that maybe need a little bit more love, like Corpse Lance, for instance. Passives are kind of in an interesting place. Some of them seem really good depending on the build that you're running with, and some builds just don't seem like they have enough support at all. Like bone stuff seems like, oh no, we just got disconnected. Hopefully, oh gosh, we got kicked out. Let's see if we can get back in there so we can show you guys the rest of the passes. Well, you gotta love PTR, right? Got a little disconnected there at the end when we were finishing up the active skills, but now we're back. And today, or for the rest of this video, we will finish talking about the passives. So, as you can see here, there are a few different ones, and some of them have to do with corpses, some of them have to do with the bone skills, some of them have to do with pets. So there's a bit of synergy within the passives, but this feels like maybe where some of the development is the roughest, perhaps. And when I'm thinking of builds and trying to put them together, if I do like a blood build, there are definitely some passives that make sense, but I feel like in general, there aren't that many great options. There aren't, if you look at like the Demon Hunter passives or any of the other classes, for the most part, there are a lot of ones that are either more general or you can just take them and they feel good to take them. But here, all of them seem like very specific, which I think is good, but to some degree, there isn't something for everything. So if you're going to have very specific passives, I feel like you also need to supply passives that will work for all of the different specs that could potentially come about. So I don't know. It's still early, of course, so we'll see. But in any case, we have Fueled by Death. Consuming a corpse increases your run speed by 3% for 5 seconds. So you kind of have your speed farm one here, which would be great. Life from Death. Consuming a corpse has a 20% chance to spawn a health globe. This one, I'm like, kind of reminds me of the whole making health globe meta and then feeding the Twister Wizard. So obviously Twister Wizard's not coming back, but this could be interesting, even just with the implications for Witch Doctors and their reliance on health globes. So that's kind of curious, but even just for Necromancer itself, that's not bad too, because there are some things having to do with health and recovering it that do help a lot. And if you're not actively using your corpses with something like Corpse Explosion, then this could be particularly good or interesting at least. Here's one of the defensive passives. Stand alone, increase armor by 100%, and it's reduced by 10% for each active minion. So this one's kind of cool, actually. Basically, it's if you're by yourself, this is awesome. If you have pets, this sucks. And you could even still equip it while you have pets in case you want to like sacrifice all your pets and then get a nice boost of armor for a moment or two. So it could be like a weird synergy thing, even with a pet build. So I like this one. It's one of my favorite passives so far. Bone Prison makes it so that your Bone Spear, Bone Spikes, and Bone Spirit have a 10% chance to trap enemies in a Bone Prison for 3 seconds. So a little bit of CC here added to your bone, some of your bone skills. That one seems pretty cool. It's very similar, the Bone Prison, to what Diablo does to you in the fight when he just traps you. Commander of the Dead. The essence costs of command skeletons and the cooldown of command golem are reduced by 30%. This one seems perfectly aligned with a pet build. No real big deal there. Swift Harvesting. Increase the attack speed of Bone Spikes, Siphon Blood, and Grim Scythe by 15%. This is your standard increase the attack speed of your generators passive. If you're going to go with a generator build, which it actually would be cool if they do have one for Necros, because they have really strong generators. Some of the runes on the generators are insane, as we've discussed. So I think this would be interesting if we could get a generator build, then we would include this one for sure. Extended Servitude. Increase the duration of your Raised Dead, which actually Dainty Nevelistus told me that that's an artifact, I guess, of the old tooltip, and it's supposed to be for Skeletal Mage. So for Skeletal Mage, and revive minions by 25%. So, you know, if people are trying to get a whole bunch of Skeletal Archers out, or they're really reliant on the revive skill, those mobs will stay around longer because they have pretty short durations as they currently stand. Next up, Overwhelming Essence. This just increases your max essence by 40. I could see potentially where this might work out, because there are some skills like that drain your entire essence, like Skeletal Mage Singularity, which is very popular right now. So the more essence you have, then the stronger that Singularity is, so that could be useful. Or if you even just go into like Simulacrum and you want to spam out a bunch of attacks, then having a lot of essence to start from could be very good as well. Reaping. While using a scythe, gain 1% Essence and life per kill. I actually couldn't find any sides. They are in the game. There is only rare ones, of course. There's no legendary items for necromancers yet. But this one could be potentially interesting just for more generation if you're really reliant on essence. Eternal Torment. Your curses cost 50% less essence and last forever. This is kind of nice if you just want to put on like an aura. Say you do the frailty one with the aura rune, and then just set it and forget it, and you never ever have to recast it again. So there are a couple of potential for that one, but yeah, that's just an option for curses if you're trying to curse some stuff. Final Service. This is the cheat death passive for the necromancers, and I'm a little bummed out with this one. First we'll read it. If you would take lethal damage instead, all minions are consumed and heal you for 10% of your health. This effect cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. So unless you have minions, this thing will basically not work for you. So it's a pet specific cheat death, which is very weird because there will be many ways to play the necromancer that do not involve pets. Unless they're literally saying if you want to cheat death, you must use pets in your build. So I would just have skeletons randomly in my build, even though I'm trying to do like Blood Nova or something. I don't know. It's kind of curious. I feel like this needs something more. Also, what you don't see here is that if you were to die and this activates, you are still vulnerable right away. There's no immunity period. There's no like 3 seconds of you can get out of dodge. So whatever is killing you is likely just going to kill you again as soon as this procs. So as a hardcore player, I would like to see this get touched up a little bit. Grisly Tribute. You are healed by 10% of your life on hit when one of your enemies, when one of your minions hits an enemy. So this is like another pet one. You can see there's some, again, there's some different synergies for the pets and things like that. So there are a few passives you could take right away and do well with your pets. This one will let them heal you up a little bit. Draw Life. This one seems really strong actually. It increases your health regen by 10% for each enemy within 20 yards. I feel like maybe there's a limit on this. I haven't fully tested it out yet. But if you're a melee mancer, this is going to be great. If you have really high health regen, I went into like the Fields of Misery and surrounded myself with some mobs, and I had a Molten Wildebeest Gizzard on that was like level 80, and I legit doubled the effect of it while out in, surrounded by a few mobs. It was crazy. So I had like insane health regen. So this seems like it should be really strong with all the different ways you can boost your health regen. This could be good, especially to keep you alive with that health coming in, especially if you're using blood skills too. Then you can continually spam those out without fear of draining all your health away. Serration. Here's another bone thing. Bone Spikes, Bone Spirit, and Bone Spirit deal 1% increased damage for every 2 yards between you, up to a maximum of 15%. So if you're at 30 yards, you get the max benefit basically. This is a nice one just because there is some bone synergy here. I personally haven't been able to really get a good bone build to work, but I hear they're out there. So that is good to know. But there are a couple, like, with Bone Prison and then now Serration, you can get some bone stuff together. Would like to see a little bit more support for the bone skills, because right now, to me at least, they feel the most lacking, with Bone Spirit maybe being the best of them all. I like Bone Spikes as a generator, I feel like I've mentioned that, but yeah, there might be more to do with some bone stuff. And of course, the sets could just totally throw it into a whole different stratosphere. Aberrant Animator. Your minions gain 200% of your thorns. I tried to do a thorns pet build. It failed miserably. Maybe there's something more that will come with this. I legit just took like all the Crusader thorns stuff that I had going and tried to make it work, but I don't know. It's weird because it's your mobs, it's your minions getting hit, not your minions attacking that's going to do the thorns damage. So it's one of those weird instances where they have to get hit rather than kind of how all the Crusader thorns works, where it's you're actively doing damage and getting your thorns benefits. So maybe there'll be more interaction with the Necromancer and some thorn stuff, but maybe this is just like, hey, here's a shout out to Iron Maiden of days gone by. Blood for Blood. Picking up a health globe removes the health cost of the next blood spell, and this effect can stack up to 3 times. So you're already seeing like some synergy health globe stuff, and this is huge because there are major skills like we talked about, Simulacrum, which uses 50% of your life to activate. So imagine you save up a Blood for Blood stack, then you hit that Simulacrum, you pay nothing, and you get the effect of doubling your damage. So that's going to be huge. Things like that. Like, that's what I'm saying. The blood skills definitely seem like they have some synergy. And especially when we go to the next one, which is blood is power. Every 5% health lost will reduce all remaining cooldowns by 1%. It is pretty insane, right? If you have like a one-hander, or spamming out Death Nova, Blood Nova, you can lose a lot of health, and of course you need high regen to also combat all of that attack speed and losing all that health. But you will reset your cooldowns insanely quickly. Combine this with the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, you know, random cooldown that you might even have on gear, and you get your Simulacrum, a 2-minute cooldown skill, back like that, like before it's even over, so you can continually overlap it. There are some cool strategies that will come with this. So this seems like one of the best passives that Necros have right now, in my opinion. And then last but not least, Rathma's Shield. You cannot lose life for 4 seconds after using Land of the Dead, Army of the Dead, and Simulacrum. So those are all your big 2-minute cooldown skills. And so it kind of gives you some safety after you use them. So you can just go absolutely bananas once you've activated them. I haven't messed with that one yet, but it seems good. I think you'll probably see more stuff with the 2-minute cooldown skills once we see some support for them, because there probably will be ways to lower that cooldown further outside of like Blood is Power, because that fully locks you into a blood build. So we might see some things to come in the future. Again, Necromancer is very exciting. All the skills there for you, all the passives. It's a work in progress. There will be much more to come in the future. So I thank you for watching. We will continue to do Necromancer videos. Feel free to check the information in this video for some more details on stuff to come. Links to important sites and social media, all that good stuff. If you like this review, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And look forward to more Necromancer content coming from the closed beta. This has been Leviathan. Adios.